Would you rather own 100% of a little grape or 10 to 30% of a massive watermelon? Welcome to the Nine Doors Down Show, where we discuss anything and everything about commercial real estate and investing. Let's get it.
Nine Doors Down.
John Lopez.
Nine Doors Down.
Hi, this is Tony Rose.
Nine Doors Down.
Hi, this is Anthony Pimentel.
Educating, capital raising, networking.
Nine doors down. Nine doors down.
This is called a show.
Welcome to another episode of the Nine Doors Down Show. Anthony, this is a treat for me, man. This is a product of you changing my mindset back in 2019, 2020. You and him, and this gentleman was actually the first two people I met in the multifamily investing space.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is one of the first guys, and he's a great guy. And I knew I had to introduce you to him and show us some real estate stuff while we were in Phoenix.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's a little background on our special guest. Raymond T. Hightower is a commercial real estate investor and tech company founder operating in the United States, specifically in Arizona. Hightower started and ran his technology company for over 2 decades before selling the company and launching Bridgetown Partners, also known as ROIClear. Bridgetown/ROIClear buys commercial real estate in Arizona, Tennessee, and Texas with a special focus on 50 to 150 unit multifamily properties. The company also produces the ROIClear Podcast. Again, listeners, make sure to follow ROIClear Podcast, the video podcast for business leaders. To all our listeners at home, to all our listeners who are stuck in traffic, maybe you're in the shower listening to this podcast, let's welcome our special guest, Mr. Ray Hightower.
Wow. Thank you, John. Thank you so much for that introduction. And Anthony, thank you for introducing John and me. And I've always admired you guys, the way you operate with Nine Doors Down. I've always admired how you hustle and you focus and you have a lot of fun while you're doing it. So I'm honored to be here. I'm deeply honored to be here.
I appreciate it, Ray. Thank you.
So Ray, like you know, as I said in the intro, you definitely hold a special place in my heart. I remember that very first dinner. That was the very first trip that we took in the middle of COVID. We drove from Los Angeles out to Tucson, and Anthony was like, "We got to go meet up with this guy Ray." I'm like, "Okay, yeah." And I remember just being so wide-eyed and just listening to the talk track, and immediately I was like, "Okay, I'm in a circle of a style of conversation I've never been a part of before," and I was just so fascinated.
Yeah, I think we all feel that. You know, all of us have come from some other background into multifamily real estate, commercial real estate. You know, I know you have amazing backgrounds. I think about everything Anthony does with running the restaurant and doing IT and all that. And I've got an IT background. We all came from somewhere else, and we're all coming together. So I think everyone who joins this industry or profession brings something new to it, like a different kind of spice in a stew that we're making together, and it's fascinating.
100%, man. And we're gonna dive into ROIClear, but for our listeners at home, what was life like for Ray before ROIClear?
Oh wow, before ROIClear, wow. Depends on how far back do you want to go? Do you want to go back? My first memory is I have memories of when I was 2 or 3 years old, like little splotches of memory, but you don't want to go back there. Probably business. Before ROIClear, I ran, as you mentioned in the introduction, I ran a technology company for 21 years, just over 21 years. And I started that. We did local area network installations, Novell Network, Microsoft, Windows NT. And then after about 10 years of running the company that way, we morphed into software development, mainly open source. We were primarily a framework called Ruby on Rails, a language called Ruby, and a framework called Ruby on Rails. And we built web applications for different businesses. And it was just an amazing time. I got to work with some amazingly smart people, smart contractors and employees on my team, as well as really smart clients that we had an opportunity to work with. So that was wonderful. We created a conference called Windy City Rails, and that was held in Chicago. We did that for about 10 years, and for a long time, I could go anywhere in the world in the software community or in the Ruby language community, and people would know me as that Windy City Rails guy. Wouldn't know my name, but they would know the conference, which is perfect. I want them to know the product. I don't care if they know who Ray Hightower is or not, as long as they know the product and the service and what we're doing to benefit the community. That's what's important. So we did that for many years, and then I sold the company in, well, it was 2016. So sold the company then, joined another company that I sold to, and went to LA. I did the tech company all in Chicago. And then after I joined the company that I sold to, I moved to LA to run the LA office for that company. And while I was there, I was looking at real estate. Didn't find any deals that made sense. So I started, like the two of you, doing road trips to Arizona. And here I am. Here's ROIClear, Bridgetown Partners, all that. So that's it in a nutshell.
I remember in the first dinner we had, you were telling me that while you were in Los Angeles, you would take like almost weekly trips going out to Phoenix and Tucson looking for deals, which you eventually moved out there.
Yes, yeah. It was crazy. Yeah. Not quite weekly, but I did take trips often because I wanted to look at what was going on out here. And then I finally just, I don't know why it took me so long to wake up, but after a couple of months of doing that, I realized it made more sense to just move here. And I guess you kind of have to dip your toe in the water before you jump in, right? You want to know what's going on. So dipping my toe in the water, those were those road trips to Phoenix and Tucson, looking at deals. The numbers made more sense here than they did in LA. And you know this, LA, you make an offer on the property based on cash flow and the broker looks at you, well, you need to take into account appreciation. And I'm saying appreciation, you can't bet on that. You never know what's going to happen. Like Anthony was saying before we started recording, if interest rates go down, then people are willing to pay more. But if interest rates go up, people are willing to pay less. We have no control over the vicissitudes, the ups and downs of interest rates. Therefore, you can't count on appreciation. You have to manage these properties according to cash flow and cash on cash return. So I was able to find deals in Arizona where it made sense to do that. And that's why I'm here.
That's awesome, Ray. That's a great point. Now, take us back to what gave you that real estate bug? Because, IT, it's kind of a specialized field. And, I love being in IT, actually, computers, messing around and doing all this stuff. But kind of take us back on what got you that into real estate.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of crazy. My first adventure in real estate was decades ago. I was in corporate America. I was 25 years old. And I decided to leave corporate America to dive into real estate. I went and I became a commercial real estate broker in the state of Illinois. First, you had to start off and take the exam to become an agent. You do that for a year, work with a company, and then take another exam, and you can become a broker. So I did that, and I became a broker like as soon as the dates allowed me to become a broker, and I did that in the state of Illinois. And I did random deals. I did industrial property, some apartments, vacant land, restaurants, all of those, and one single family house and all of that. But I wasn't making the kind of money I needed to make there. It was tough. This was during a recession. This was like late 80s, early 90s, all of that. That was crazy. And so I left that to start my technology company, but I always knew I would go back to real estate. In fact, I ran into a guy in downtown Chicago. I'll never forget. I was walking across the bridge over the Chicago River at Randolph Street. I was walking east. He was walking west, and I was just about to exit the bridge, and he was just about to come onto the bridge. And he said, "Hey, Ray, good to see you. What company are you with now?" I said, "Hey, I started a tech company, and when I come back to real estate, it's going to be as an owner, because it was a challenge being a broker back in my 20s, back in Chicago. But I learned a lot. And my brother's name is Edward. Edward is extremely wise. And about that experience, my brokerage experience back when I was in my 20s, Edward likes to say, because I learned a lot doing that. I learned a lot about negotiations and contracts and how to get things done, which is a very important skill to have if you're an entrepreneur or a real estate owner, which are both, very, similar or very related. Real estate owner is one subset of entrepreneurship. Edward likes to say, you wouldn't trade that experience for $1 million, but you wouldn't repeat it again for 2. So it's one of those things, and I listen to him about that. I listen to him. So yeah, so this is my second adventure in real estate, and now I'm more rational. So
yeah, that experience is super invaluable. So many people get into this game and they want to like learn about new skills to get into it, where I don't think many people realize, focus on the skills that you already have, own that, drive that even further. Naturally,
Yes.
you're going to start bleeding into other directions. And, listening to your story, you started off as a broker, then you dove a little bit more in the IT space, and then swinging back to real estate. So
yes.
the pattern that I see is like you started to see the money bag, right? And you wanted the money bag through ownership. Now, when you dove back in, why did you not go into like flipping and wholesaling and single family holds, and why did you dive into multifamily?
Welcome to the course on raising capital for investments. In this course, we'll cover the following topics. 1, analyzing your investment strategy. Number 2, discovering potential investors. 3, crafting your pitch. 4, securing your investment. 5, our cheat code. We'll round out the program with our very own cheat code for getting in front of investors and being ready to pitch your investment opportunities. Take action today. Visit schoolofninedoorsdown.com and learn to attract capital.
Oh, that's a brilliant question. I always knew that I wanted to scale. And even in California, I was looking at, I didn't realize how big we could scale in this business. I mean, you guys know this. I didn't realize this. I was in California, I was looking at 6 and 8 flats, and I was thinking, I'll buy a couple of 6 and 8 flats and grow from there and start expanding. And then I discovered syndication. And I heard the word syndication years ago, but I never thought of it as something that I could do or get involved with. But as I dug into it, I enrolled in the mentorship program with Rod Cleef, the Warrior program, which has just been amazing. And I got involved with some other mentors, people who know a whole lot more than me. I try to surround myself with people that know a whole lot more than me. And through conversations with them, and by looking at what they were doing with their properties, I was able to absorb more and become a syndicator myself. And I say myself, but I don't believe that we can be truly successful in this business unless we become part of a team. Like you guys are a team, and you mentioned you've got another partner that you're with. You've got a team that, 3 of you, and you have other people on your team to do that. And really, what the shift came when I realized that I didn't have to do all of this by myself, because that's crazy, because I don't have the entire skill set within me. And it's actually a lot more fun when you do it as part of a team, because you get the interaction and you get to laugh together, and sometimes you cry together when something doesn't go the way you wanted it to, right? And all of that happens when you're in this business, and it's just fantastic. And sometimes you clash. One of my mentors, you may know her, Jenny Gu. Jenny is one of the founders of Vertical Street Ventures. She, along with Steve Louis and Kyle Mitchell, they run Vertical Street Ventures, and they have Kiyoshi Simon, who's a partner there. Jenny likes to say, when partners disagree, sometimes you just got to hug it out. And I can see Jenny saying that to her kids. And she also says it to us, her partners, because we're partners on a few deals too. It's just remarkable. You gotta figure out when you disagree, gotta figure out how to work through it and come to some point of agreement. You don't want to get to the point where you want to win over your partner, or your partner wants to win over you. I think what you want to do is talk to each other, listen to each other, and then figure out how you can come together in a way that it benefits both of you or all of the people in the partnership.
Right. That makes perfect sense, Ray. And
Yeah.
like we have a saying on this show, and then it's also in our theme songs. Like, there's a general question that I always ask people when I first meet them at meetups is like, would you rather own 100% of a little grape, or would you rather own 10 to 30% of a massive watermelon? Right. So when I first understood that saying, and it was a guy at a gas station in Tucson, out of all places, that told me that. But I know for me, when I first connected the dots with syndication through Anthony, I just remember feeling, why didn't the education system tell me about this? Well, how come my friends and family doesn't know about this? How did you feel when you first connected the dots with syndication?
Well, I felt like, yeah, why didn't I know this a long time ago? Certainly. Running my tech company, that was a lot of fun. And, we made a lot of money, but we also spent a lot of money in the form of salaries and fees to consultants and all of that stuff we had to do. It was essentially, I created a job for myself. It was a business, but was more of a job because you don't really build up a whole lot of equity in that space. I mean, there's some companies that can build up some equity, but it's kind of like the long tail. There's a very tiny percentage that build up some equity, but most of us are on a constant hustle, and we don't realize we're on a hustle because it's a lot of fun. I mean, running it was a lot of fun. But when I got into real estate, as you mentioned, I love that metaphor, 100% of a grape or, 10% of a big watermelon. That's a beautiful, beautiful word picture. I felt that, well, it was something new to learn. It was something new to learn and something new to jump on. I didn't necessarily feel like, oh, no, woe is me, I missed out on something, because honestly, I had a lot of fun in technology. I had fun when I was in corporate America. I had fun when I was in technology, all that. And, I got to travel all over the world doing that. And I'm doing a lot of traveling now in real estate. So it's just the next thing. I don't have any regrets about, oh, why didn't I know this a long time ago? Yeah, of course you wanted to know it a long time ago. But then if I had known it a long time ago, there's some adventures in my technology life that I would not have had. So it's a trade-off, right? And the truth is, when we die, we don't take any of this with us anyway, right? I want to live and help as many people as I can, be as good to as many people as I can, worship God the way I understand that I'm supposed to worship God. I happen to be a Christian, but people have different faiths, but and that's what I want to do. And I also look at what we do in real estate as an opportunity to serve other people, serve humanity, to worship God, all of that together. That comes together. Yeah, I may have missed out on some amount of money, but I'm still alive and happy. I get to meet you guys. I get to meet a lot of other people, get to connect with a lot of people. So, it's a trade-off.
Amazing, amazing. Thanks for sharing that, Ray. I forgot who said it, but there was a quote. It's like, have you ever seen a U-Haul following a hearse? So you were talking, you just said that point you just made is like, you don't take anything with you when you pass away. So I heard that somewhere. I forgot where it was, but that just touched on me right now. I was like, that's a great point.
Yeah, it is, and I think about that a lot. I'm in about what day is it? So 16. In about 45 days, I turned 60 years old. So
wow.
I think about that. And and I'm blessed that my mother, who lives in Chicago, she's in great shape. She's 90, well, she turns 95 in April, so I'm blessed, and I have other people in my family that are long lived. So I expect to be around for a while, but you never know. I might, you never know what happens. I like to go skydiving, so you never know what happens, right? We never know. We never know exactly how many days we have left. We just don't know. Tomorrow is not promised. So we want to plan for tomorrow and plan for years ahead and strategize as if we're going to be here, but of course also celebrate. And I love, what you just shared, Anthony, the U-Haul behind the hearse, yeah. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Now let's take a step back on when you got into your first deal, your first syndication.
Yeah.
Kind of take me through how you guys kind of found the deal, how'd you take it down, the partnerships you made and the relationships you built? Kind of take us through that.
Yeah, my first as a general partner, because I invested in a few as a limited partner, and that was good because I was able to put some money into those and to get to know how that operation works. My first GP deal was wonderful. In fact, I have a meeting with those partners just later today. We have an asset management meeting, but that was with Kathy Jang, Jenny Gu, Kyle Mitchell, Stephen Louis. And I've got a picture of all of us right outside here from my first GP deal. We took a picture right outside the property, and that's on my wall right over here. And I love looking at that because, how do I say this? I was clueless. I was clueless. I was so clueless, and I'm very fortunate in that I was partnered with, I partnered with Kathy, whom I've gotten to know here, just amazingly smart and very conscientious and focused. And then we got together with BSV. We were actually both enrolled in the Vertical Street Ventures Academy. I spent a ton of money on education and masterminds because I need to fill in gaps in my knowledge. And so through that relationship with BSV, we were able to acquire this 28-unit property in Phoenix. And I'm really proud of the way we came together. We came together in the acquisitions and on the due diligence. What blew my mind on the due diligence is the way, we learned this through BSV, the way you have all of the specialists on hand. You have the property management firm, you have the electrical and plumbing and roofing and concrete and parking lot and all these specialists on hand, and you all go through the property together. And what we noticed about this property, it was really in bad shape on the outside. The previous owner had not taken very good care of it. But when we went into the units, the individual residents really cared about their space. You could see the love and the caring there. And we noticed that and shared that with each other. Kathy and Jenny and Steve and Kyle all shared that with each other as we were walking through this. So we did the acquisition, did our first capital raise, closed on this deal. And one of the highlights of this deal for me was when, on the day of the closing, our property management firm is on site, knocking on doors, handing out flyers, telling people where the rent needs to be paid to. And we also had porters on site picking up the trash that was around there. And the residents thanked us. They thanked our management company for doing that. And since then, we've made so many improvements there. First, there were some electrical panels that were very dangerous, made by a company called Zinsco. And if you have Zinsco panels in a property, there are insurance companies that don't want to insure you because they are a fire hazard. So we went through and replaced all the Zinsco panels. And when we did that, we made the property safer, lower the risk of fire. And we also reduced our insurance expenses. So it was a win-win all the way around. It's better for the residents, it's better for us, it's better for our investors, all that stuff. And we replaced the roofs on the properties. There are multiple buildings there, 2 buildings. So we replaced the roofs on those. That was a lot of money. We dug into that. One day I was on site right after we put a new roof on there, and there was a guy from a satellite company that was planning to put some satellite dishes on that roof and drill holes in our brand new roof. I said, no, you don't get to drill holes in our brand new roof. We just put this on here. And what's so funny, this was a Sunday morning that I was there. I tend to go by the property at odd times. I happened to be there on a Sunday morning when he was planning to be there and drill some holes in our brand new roof. I said, no, you don't get to do that. And he said, who are you? I said, I'm one of the owners. And he said, oh. So we came up with another solution. He put the satellites on the ground with some bricks, some what do you call it? Concrete bricks, so it was a solution. Everybody won. He got to sell the satellite service, and we got a roof that has no holes in it. So I don't know if I'm answering your question. You asked me what were the highlights of this deal. There's so many of them I could share. We're going to have more highlights, like when we get on this call with my partners on this deal. We're going through financials and going through what the property manager has done with the property in the past week. It's just amazing. We painted the exterior. We updated the landscaping. We've just done a lot of improvements. We made improvements to the plumbing. We've improved the draining in the parking lot. What I love about this is in this business, we buy multifamily apartment properties, fix them up, and give people a great place to live. And while we're doing this, we give investors an opportunity to participate alongside us. And when investors invest with us, they get capital preservation, tax advantages, and a solid return on investment. And, that's it. Very long answer to your question, Anthony. I hope I gave you something of value in there. So
For sure, appreciate it.
You definitely did, Ray. So with that 28 unit and that all the deals that you've done after that one, and then your current deal, right? Capital raising, it's a skill that, in my opinion, it can be learned. You can learn capital raising as long as you have the right mindset and you take the right action. How have you parlayed raising capital through your avatar, which you came from the IT space? Have you parlayed your network within IT so that way they invested with you on deals?
I'm still working on that. I will never pass myself off as an expert capital raiser. I do raise capital. I do speak to a lot of people who have money to put in our deals. I do spend more time trying to figure out what is it that the investor wants so that my partners and I can give it to them. And part of it is peace of mind. When they invest, when we all invest, Warren Buffett says this, the most important organ when you're investing is not really your brain. The brain is important. You need a certain level of intelligence, but beyond a certain IQ level, then it becomes really important. Your stomach becomes more important than your brain. You want to be able to invest in deals where you're not worried about what's happening every day or every night. It's one of the reasons I could never be a day trader. I do invest in the stock market. I have stock, we've talked about this before. I love owning stock in Tesla and SpaceX and some of these exchange traded funds where you can invest in other companies too that are not publicly available and all that. I love doing that. At the same time, I love real estate for the capital preservation, the tax advantages, and the solid, almost predictable. I say almost predictable, but it's more predictable than other investments. Almost predictable return on investment. So when I talk to investors about putting money into our deals, that's the kind of thing I like to talk to them about.
Awesome. Now let me ask, how are you, I guess, educating your investors and how are you meeting new investors to, kind of show them the ways of real estate and how they could, the bonus depreciation, the tax benefits, all that stuff. What are you doing with ROIClear that's pretty much educating these potential investors?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. Well, something that's similar to what you guys are doing with 9 Doors Down. I love the name 9 Doors Down. I just love that. That's just, it's so cool. That is, because the name 9 Doors Down that you have, that causes people to say, oh, where did the name come from? Because it conjures up like a little bit of mystery and cleverness and all of that. And the investor wants to ask you about it, and it immediately kicks off a conversation. I try to do something similar with ROIClear. Why is the name ROIClear? ROI for return on investment, and clear because when we are communicating with our investors or the members of our team or our partners or vendors or anyone else, any other stakeholder in what we're doing, we need to communicate with clarity so that we're all on the same page and our ships can all sail in the same direction and we can move forward and all that. And the way we do education, one, it's through our podcast. We have the ROIClear podcast. We also have a monthly newsletter that we share that. And then we do one-on-one phone calls and Zoom calls with investors. And the education works both ways. There's a deal that I'm a partner on with an assisted living facility, 146 units, assisted living in Sierra Vista, south of Tucson, about an hour south of Tucson. And one of my investors on that deal also has a background in medical marketing, was a drug rep, did drug reps and was in the healthcare marketing field, and has some ideas for us on what we can do to improve the occupancy there. And of course we listen to him. The education goes both ways. I might share some things with him about, as you mentioned, bonus depreciation or other tax advantages. He'll share some things with me. Well, 20 years ago when I first started off in medical marketing, or he actually started off longer than that, but when he shared, these are some things that I did to make sure that we got the word out about what we were offering. And so we're able to use some of his ideas with what we're doing with our assisted living facility in Sierra Vista. So the education goes both ways. And I think it's important for us to acknowledge that when we are, quote unquote, educating an investor, that investor also has a background in some area where they are the expert. And if they were not an expert in that area where they are, they probably wouldn't have the money to invest in our deals, right? So we acknowledge their expertise and we also share our expertise, and together we all win. You know, it's like if you use your candle to light someone else's candle, now you both have a flame going on your candles and nobody lost. And you can use that one candle to light how many hundreds or thousands of other candles and keep going. Nobody loses because that spark goes on to the next candle.
Energy cannot be created nor destroyed, right?
Yes.
And what I like about you, Ray, so like I see you really active on LinkedIn. Your posts are very, very educational, very intriguing, right? I think it leaves like enough of a carrot dangling for potential investors.
Thank you.
I see your emails, you know, so your social media. In this game that we play with syndications and real estate, in your eyes, what do you think is more important? Is it the sales aspect of it to gain investors, or is it the marketing piece?
Ooh, which is more important, sales and marketing? Well, it depends on whether your title is VP of sales or VP of marketing. So we all tend to, when we know something well, we all want to pretend that's the most important thing ever, right? We all, oh yeah, IT is the backbone of any business because IT is more important than anything. Well, what about marketing? Because if you don't market, you don't get people coming in the door. Or if you're not selling, you're not closing, right there. So I think there are elements of both that are key and necessary. And I think each needs to acknowledge the contribution of the other. So I wouldn't say one is necessarily more important than the other, but if you have neither, you're not going to go anywhere. And if you have one but not the other, you won't go as far as you could if you had both. So there's a synergistic relationship between them. And I would also argue that underwriting is part of that synergistic relationship, and due diligence is a part of that synergistic relationship. And so is capital raising, and so is asset management. And we come together with all of these, and then we can deliver well. I think the best capital raisers who are people, perhaps they focus on capital raising, but they also acknowledge the importance of the other roles on the team so that we can accomplish things that none of us could accomplish on our own. So that's the way I see it.
Those are great points. I mean, especially when you're part of a team, you wear a lot of different hats where you can be underwriting, you can be capital raising, asset management, construction management, all that stuff. Now, from your experience, kind of which way or which role do you prefer, or do you kind of do all of it?
Man, you are like tapping into one of my weaknesses. I love chasing shiny objects, and I'm like a dog chasing a squirrel sometimes. And you want to chase that squirrel and all of that. So what you just described are a whole bunch of squirrels that are very, very interesting to me. I love spreadsheets and underwriting, but we have people on the teams that I work with who are better at underwriting than me. I'm excited about the asset management because you get to interact with the property manager and what they're doing day to day and help drive the business plan. But there are people on the teams that I'm a part of that are better at asset management than me. And so I think if you really want to get good at something, you have to choose where your heart is and keep practicing and keep getting good at it. I do focus on capital raising, but I know a lot of people who are better at capital raising than me, but that is where I've chosen to focus. And the reason I've chosen to focus there is I know that I can't do everything at once and be good at everything. Last week, just a few days ago, Thursday and Friday of last week, we were doing due diligence on a deal that we're under contract on in Tucson. And it's so exciting to go up on the roof of a property And this is a property where there are 4 large buildings, like a 90+ unit deal, 4 buildings. And it's just exciting to go up on the roof with the solar panels. And I don't feel that I really am involved with the property. I shouldn't say that. Well, you're recording, it's whatever. I only feel that I'm really involved with the property once I've been on the roof and in the boiler room. I don't know, something
get
about
you.
that. Something about being there, right?
Right.
Even though there are people who know those systems much better than me, I feel that as one of the owners, as a syndicator, as a general partner, I need to be on the roof and in the boiler room. Okay, now I know something about the property. And it's crazy because there are other people that know so much more about roofs, like the inspector that I was following around. I always do this with someone who knows more than me because I want to learn from them. He was talking to me about the modified bitumen that they have up there and the foam that's used to drive some of the water off, and how there are stanchions up there, and you need to goop up the stanchions every so often to make sure water doesn't come in, and all the systems that are part of the roofing system. And that's exciting to me. All that's exciting to me. And I think doing those makes me a better capital raiser because I'm excited about all of it, but I acknowledge that there are other people that are much better. We've got people. I'm looking here at a picture from a Zoom call we did yesterday with, there are 8 of us on this call about this property that we're working on. And everybody has some skill where they're stronger than me on here. And I love it. I love it. It's like being on a baseball team and, maybe I'm playing left field or second base or whatever. And if I'm playing second base, I'm not going to run out to left field to try to catch a pop fly that went to left field. That would be silly, but I just love it. So I love and respect all aspects of it. I have intentionally chosen to focus on the capital raising side myself. I know it's a long journey. I know there's a lot that I can learn to get better at it. At the same time, I love it all. I respect it all. And I focus on capital raising.
I love that, Ray. Like, one thing I've learned, like in this game, or even just in other businesses I've been a part of, is like there's a time to lead, there's a time to follow, and there's a time to get out the way, right? And if you're working in a team aspect, your strengths might be capital raising, but there's always going to be someone else that's better with capital raising. Same thing with asset management and so on. But everybody will win because even if the other person has a stronger skill set in that category, you're still going to learn off of that. You're going to learn off of that, and then you're going to apply it on to maybe the next property, right? And my next question, as we're starting to wind down on this interview, Ray, is we love Tucson. We know why we like going there. I think we've done a pretty darn good job with our investors of like why they should invest with us out in Tucson. But in your eyes, why the Tucson market, and where do you see that market going in the next 3 to 5 years?
Oh, yeah. Wow. I love Tucson too. I love all of the state of Arizona. My goodness, someone was asking me, Arizona it sounds like it really agrees with you. And I said, yes, it does. The weather and the people, I've been able to partner with people here have just been amazing. Just the Arizona, something about the culture of Arizona, and we work together with each other. There are people like you two guys I didn't meet until I moved to Arizona. I moved to Arizona 3 years ago, and I love interacting with you guys. You're just amazingly smart and conscientious, and you want to do a good job and all of that. And I get a lot of that in Tucson, and I get a lot of that in Phoenix too. Tucson, what I love about that is, well, anywhere, as you guys know, and as many of your listeners know, key things that you look for in a market where you want to invest, you're looking for job growth, income growth, and population growth. 3 key things you're looking for: job growth, income growth, and population growth. And Arizona has just excelled in all of those. Tucson and Phoenix and some of the smaller towns too. I'm talking about, the MSAs for those too. And Tucson specifically, I love there. You've got the University of Arizona. Now, those people who went to Arizona State University out of Phoenix might not like the University of Arizona in Tucson, but that's just a rivalry, and they need to get over it, right? They need to get over it. So you've got Arizona, University of Arizona that's down there. got Banner Medical, you've got Geico, you've got Davis Monthan, the Air Force Base, you've got Fort Huachuca, the Army base that's there, and you've got all the other companies that are feeding into each other and helping each other and collaborating with each other in ways they don't necessarily know. So Tucson is a very vibrant economy. And one of the other things I like about Tucson is that if you see a trend in Phoenix, like if you see returns taking off in Phoenix, you can bet that's going to happen in Tucson a few years later. So you look at Phoenix, it's kind of a harbinger or a predictor of what's going to happen in Tucson a few years later. So that's why I love Tucson and Phoenix. I have money invested in both of those cities and in also Sierra Vista that's out south of Tucson as well. So I love that. I really just love the way people interact with each other and the way the conversations we've had. I speak at meetups down there. One of my partners, Colby Fryer, lives just south of Tucson and is very involved in the Tucson market there. So I love working with him. And then here in Phoenix, one of my partners here, Adrian Diaz, is here in the Phoenix MSA and has done remarkable things there. So, I just love it. And I think if I had to answer your question, I could talk about the job growth, income growth, population growth. I could talk about the employers and all of that. But the big thing that I love is just the people. And many of us moved from somewhere else. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I lived in LA for a couple of years and now I'm here, the people and the opportunities, all that. So that's what I love about it.
I love that, Ray. I really think that I could talk to you for like another hour or two.
You're kind. Ditto. Yeah.
We got to get you on another episode later down the road. But with this next set of questions, this is where this might be some of the toughest questions you'll ever face too, Ray.
Yeah.
And,
okay.
but our listeners will get to know the not so professional side of you, the not so suited and booted. But the very first difficult question that I need to ask, Ray, is
okay.
You're stuck on an island all by yourself, no friends and no family. But you get to use your smartphone and you get to load up either just one musical artist or one album that you could listen to on repeat until the next soul happens to land on your island. What would that artist be or that album?
Oh, that's easy. That would be Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life. That album came out in 76 or 77. I was like in my early teens and, I thought it was awesome. And then Stevie came up with this album and I thought that was awesome too. That was wonderful. So Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life. There are a lot of other artists that I like and respect and appreciate, but he's, like number one. And that album is my favorite album with all of his albums.
I mean, that guy is super inspirational. I could squeeze in, as a DJ, I could squeeze in with, so many songs, like whether it's a wedding, whether it's a bar or even like the younger generation, like I could squeeze in some classics and they'll definitely head nod and, dance around to it. So that is a great one. And another thing with him in the last few years, I've been trying to find out where he's performing next. And And so, and I can't find any, Ray. So if you happen to know of any dates, I don't care what city and state, that's somewhere where I want to take my wife.
He would sell out. I don't know where he's performing, and I don't know if he spends time performing, but
I doubt it these days.
Yeah. But now you make me want to Google that. So after I get out there, that's something I got to Google.
That's our homework for later.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We'll look that up for sure. So the one thing I do know about Ray, he loves to take these adventures on his Tesla. He drives all around the world, the country or the U.S. for it. It's pretty funny. But my next question is, do you prefer tropical or mountainous regions when you travel?
Ooh.
And if so, which one?
You know what?
Which state or which country would you want to visit?
Well, as you know, I've been to every state in the U.S. and I can talk about pros and cons for every state because I've enjoyed all of them, different aspects of them, right? I really do love Arizona. Now that I'm here, I love driving in the desert in Arizona because then I can think. There are times, and you two have done this drive a bunch of times, driving between Phoenix and Tucson, and you get that desert part where your cell phone won't work, and then and then you just get to think. and I'll turn off all the music and I'll just think. And I love driving through the desert and being able to think. I love tropical weather. You know, my mother's from Barbados. I love going to Barbados. I really enjoy tropical weather. I enjoy the tropics in, West Africa. I enjoy Ghana. And I enjoy, Caribbean. I enjoy Hawaii, all of that. At the same time, driving through the mountains, something about going through a curvy mountain road is awesome. And now that you mentioned, I'm thinking of one of these times I was driving through the state of Montana on a curvy mountain road next to a river. And I look across and there's a train going across along the edge of the mountain, a freight train. And I was thinking, man, that almost looks like a model train set. And then I had to stop myself and think, no, the model train set was designed to look like this mountain road that this train was driving on. So I don't know that I can say I prefer one over the other, but just, talking about all of those experiences, they all come together. I love them. I love the snow. Next week, I'm going to be in Chicago, visiting my mother, and it's very snowy there. The thing I loved most about the snow growing up is that my brother and me would go out and shovel snow for our neighbors and make a lot of money. So, so that was it. So
Awesome.
So yeah.
Speaking of Chicago, I don't know. Did you hear about those Teslas that didn't charge? They couldn't charge.
Oh yes, I heard
so
about
all
that.
this. It was like a junkyard of Teslas just parked there for days.
Yeah. And you know what? And you're a Tesla owner too, and so you and I have talked about this. Sometimes I wonder. Yes, and John alluded to this earlier. Energy can neither be created or destroyed, and we know at that lower temperatures, batteries do not perform well as an energy storage device, not necessarily when the temperature gets really low. So I asked myself, how much of that was just the weather, and how much of that is a news station that wants to get clicks and attention?
Yeah.
Because you and I, we know that if you precondition the battery as you go into the cell, you stand a greater chance of being able to charge that battery. And yeah, Tesla probably needs to do something different with battery chemistry. There's a lot of research going on with battery chemistry right now. I know there's a professor at the University of California at San Diego. I forget her name, but she's on the cutting edge of battery chemistry research. So now that Teslas are in amazing demand, I think that we'll see more battery research by people who are in academia and in industry. And we'll figure this out. Once upon a time, internal combustion engines were impractical too, because people said, why do I want to drive this gasoline car? Where am I going to get it fueled up? If I ride my horse, there's grass everywhere.
I love it, Ray. Man, before we sign off, how can our listeners get a hold of you? How can they learn about your investment opportunities?
Yes. If you go to ROIClear.com or RayHightower.com, all of our sites link to each other. And you go there on all of them, there's an orange button that says Investor Portal. Enroll there and you'll make sure you'll be in the loop on all of our deals.
There you go. So, and on top of that, everyone, make sure to like and follow his podcast, ROIClear Podcast. There's a couple guys that's going to be featured on there in the next couple of weeks. I heard those guys are pretty friendly.
Yeah. They're good guys. And they might be wearing a hat that says 9 doors down.
Very likely. All right, everyone. We thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the 9 Doors Down Show. Please give us a like and follow. You can catch us on your favorite podcast platforms, including YouTube Podcasts, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And on that note, here is to an end of another episode. And we out.
Peace.